All right, can you hear me?
I
Yes,
can hear
Judge.
you.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the long delay. I think the last time I communicated to the public was about an hour ago. And I indicated that we would be on hold until about 9 o'clock while we handled some technical difficulties with the jail. And also indicated that we only had 3 cases on the calendar. Since that time, we have resolved one of the cases, which is State of Georgia versus Kurt Pierce. The state and the public defender have agreed to a bond amount and bond conditions of which the court will approve. So that case is now off the calendar. Any questions, you need to talk to Attorney Rhodes with the public defender's office. The second case, Namias Dennis, that case is going to be reset until 2:30 this afternoon to be handled by Judge Sonia George, who heard the original case or preliminary hearing, and additional information and or documentation has been obtained to bring to the court's attention to make a final decision on that issue of bond. So I said preliminary hearing, it was probably a previous bond hearing, is that right?
On
On Dennis.
that was a previous bond hearing.
Okay, previous bond hearing. So that's going to be heard at 2:30 on Namias Dennis. And Attorney Rose will also be representing. And so anyone interested in that case, please come back on the YouTube at 2:30. So that leaves this one last case out of the 3 that I mentioned, and that's the State of Georgia versus Jennifer Welch, represented by Attorney Chris Tolles. The state is represented by Assistant District Attorney Cheryl Freeman. Again, I'm Judge Richard Brown. This is the Clayton County Magistrate Court, and I'm sitting by designation as Superior Court Judge for the purpose of determining Superior Court bonds. Today is June the 19th, 2020. The cases that are pending against Ms. Welch, there are a total of 9 cases. They are as follows. 2, 3. There are 5 charges of violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act. And there is 1 charge of trafficking methamphetamine for a total of 6 charges. There's possession of drug-related objects, 7th charge. Cruel to the children in the 2nd degree, 8th charge. And a vehicle with false or secret compartment is the 9th charge. There is no bond on the 8 felony charges. And the only case that has a bond is the drug-related objects, which is a $1,000 bond. For the record, I did not state the case number, so I will do that at this time. Case 2020 WA 08412 and 413 is the VGCSA first 2 charges. Drug-related object is the 8414. Cruel to the children in the 2nd degree is 8415. Vehicle with false or secret compartment is 8416. The 3 additional counts of violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act is 8417, 8418, and 8419. Trafficking methamphetamine is 8420. This is a bond request filed by Attorney Toles on behalf of his client, Ms. Welch. Again, Attorney Sheriff Freeman represents District Attorney's Office. It's your motion, Attorney Toles, you may proceed.
Morning, Judge, and thank you for allowing us to have this hearing this morning. I represent Jennifer L. Welch, and she is 38 years old, has one child, a 5-year-old. She is not from Clayton County, Judge. She is from Rabun County. I was not familiar with this county, and I discovered that this county is in the northeast part of the state, the most northeast county in the state, before you head over the border, kind of going up 85 a little bit, then it goes out into the country. And actually, ironically, the county seat of that county is Clayton. What brings Ms. Welch here today is that she was arrested. It seems to be on the 13th day for she was I think in a vehicle that was at the AMC Theater here in Morrow, Georgia, and a 911 call had gone out to dispatch that a person that was in a vehicle had possibly overdosed on drugs and needed medical attention. The person that needed that medical attention was Ms. Welch. Ms. Welch was treated by EMS who had come to the scene for the drug overdose. She was unresponsive and placed on a stretcher and wheelchair in an ambulance, and she was actually sent to the hospital. Morrow police had come out, and I think it's Officer Bell with the K9 officer had come over, and the vehicle was still there. And Officer Bell, he did I guess a free air sniff with the dog. According to him, his dog allegedly alerted on the car. He searched the vehicle, and the biggest part of what he found was he found some MDMA, some ecstasy pills that were in 2 clear bags, and in the door panel, like it was on the passenger side of the car. It was in the door panel, like, and he had to actually remove the panel to get to the drugs. He also found some drugs on Ms. Welch's person, according to him at the hearing. Some heroin, some marijuana. And so she was charged with pretty much everything that was found in the car. Although this car is not registered to Ms. Welch, she does not own this car. She was the driver, not the passenger of this car. And it's circumstantial if she had any knowledge of this. What we don't know how long those pills had been there, as it was not her car, but she was charged with that as she was the driver. That's her link to the trafficking amount of drugs. I think there was a digital scale and some other things also found. She went to the hospital, Judge, about 5 hours. She was there for 5 hours being treated. And it seemed to me at the hearing that Morrow was more concerned with doing a drug investigation than really worried about what was going on with Ms. Welch. Because they brought her in, they Mirandized her, and wasn't anything about hey, are you okay, or what can we do to help you, but more of a tell us what's going on, even though she had just gotten out of the hospital and was probably in no state to be in a interview room with police officers. She rambled off something about going from here to there, bringing something to here and there, and so initially, so she was in the charge, and she's been in jail ever since, Judge. According to the state, you know, there is a drug history here. From about 5, 6 years ago, was a couple of meth cases. I don't know if she actually has any. I don't. Maybe she has some convictions. I know the last thing she did was there was a case where she had gotten 10 years probation, but she was actually sent to drug court, which she completed. I say all that to say, Judge, that as far as bond concern, Ms. Welch clearly has a drug problem. She's had a drug history. She was overdosed at the car. So there's clearly even though she's been to drug court, there's evidence that she was using drugs on the day in question, and there's drugs in her purse and drug paraphernalia in her purse. I'm asking this court to set bond to try to help Ms. Welch rather than just another person we lock up. I got a call the other night about a guy also charged with trafficking, been in jail for 18 months, Judge. Seen his lawyer one time. He's in on a $100,000 bond. That's not going to help Ms. Welch sitting in jail for 18 months on a $100,000 bond, or that's not going to help Ms. Welch. Ms. Welch doesn't need to be locked up, Judge. She needs drug treatment. She needs help with a drug addiction, not sitting in a Clayton County cage with coronavirus for the next 18 months. And so I'm asking this court to set a reasonable bond, Judge. And quite frankly, the bonds in Clayton County are not reasonable. They do not comport with due process. They discriminate against poor people and minorities, and they assume guilt rather than the assumption that they're not guilty. And they end up spending more time in jail, waiting on coming back to court, which is unfair, while rich people who can afford the money, they get out and they get to sit in the comfort of their homes.
Judge, I'm going to object. This is irrelevant regarding whether or not Ms. Welch should get a bond.
It is relevant to show reasonableness, and I'm asking the court to set a reasonable bond, which is required by the United States Constitution to set a reasonable bail. $100,000 bonds are not reasonable in any stretch of an imagination to someone like Ms. Welch who cannot afford it, to that guy that was sitting in jail for 18 months who can't afford it.
See, again, Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is not about some other defendant who Mr. Toes represents. We're only here about Ms. Welch, and he has made his argument, and he's saying the same thing about it being reasonable. And that is certainly up to Your Honor if Your Honor decides to grant a bond as to what is reasonable or not.
All right,
Judge,
how much more you need to share, Attorney Toles? How many more minutes you need?
Well, we're asking, Judge, for reasonable bond.
Okay.
Right? And so, you know, we're asking for a bond that's least restrictive, that at least tries to attempt to address Ms. Welch's issues. And so, if a bond could be perhaps fashioned that would allow her to be released to, say, a in-house drug treatment, not a voluntary, outside drug agency where she could just still be free, but rather if we could find a program for her to maybe be an in-house drug treatment facility, I believe that would be an appropriate and reasonable bond condition to say, if we can get you transferred into an in-house drug treatment program, we could release you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Attorney Toles. So because you have suggested an option, an alternative, do you have such a treatment program that you have found and that has agreed to accept um, Ms. Welch? Do you have that with you this morning?
I do not.
Okay, so let me jump back in. Let me jump back in because we're wasting time. If you had that, since you are recommending that and you don't have it, do you want to reset in order to get that? And so it can be considered by the DA as well as the court. I'm hearing your arguments and I'm hearing your passionate arguments about what's fair and what's right, what's in best interest. So not opposing that, but not making a final decision on that. Do you wish to reset to prepare yourself that when you make such a presentation, you have it ready to go so the decision can be made? So your option right now is either to request a reset to get that, or since you don't have it, then I'm going to sustain Attorney Freeman's objection about we're here for this case and this case only. And so I'll end here, but let me see what you want to do. I hear your argument, but we can't do anything on it if you're not prepared with what you're saying needs to be done. Go ahead.
And that is, Judge. And like I said, I have to go by the history of the Clayton County court system. And so I'm asking for something that's not normally done.
Okay, Attorney Toles, you're ignoring what I just said. What you've asked for is not something that I will say no to.
Okay.
But I cannot even consider it until you are prepared to present that scenario in a realistic and present tense fashion. So that's why I'm asking you again. Do you want to reset to get that so that when you're asking for, I can make a determination about it?
Okay.
And the state will have a chance to provide a counter position and or possibly agree. But we don't even have that option now because you're making an argument and you don't have what you need on the table for us to make a decision on.
Well, if the court has allowed me that opportunity, Ms. Welch, would you like to continue this hearing for us to look into an alternative so we can maybe present that to the court rather than just a straight cash bail bond system? Would you like to continue this matter for, say, 30 days for us to see if one exists, see if that even is an option, and then we can perhaps the court consider that option? But he wants to at least hear what we have. We don't have anything today. Would you like to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well then, Judge, yes, we would ask for a continuance to allow us time to see if we could seek a suitable drug program that the state may or may not, but the court may or may not accept. And then we can make the appropriate arguments at that time if we're able to find one.
Attorney Freeman, anything from you?
No objection to the continuance. I will say this, that based on her history, I don't see on her GCIC, Chris, where she was in drug court. I know our participants, when they have completed drug court successfully, is reflected. That's not what's reflected in hers. And so the only thing that I would suggest is to maybe contact Raven County to kind of get
documentation for the
if in fact she has, and then and if she has in fact completed it, then she may be in aftercare and she still may be in violation because of these current charges and how she was found overdosing. So that's just something to look at. And then also if the drug of choice is heroin, and this is based on my experience working with our drug court, that is one of the hardest drugs when you're talking about the programs. And so when you're doing your research, you certainly want to specifically say if that is Because I know not all of the programs are geared towards the heroin.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, we'll thank you, and we'll see where we can get you that information. And when we adjourn back, hopefully we'll have that information for the court and the district attorney's office.
So before we exit, I need to see, Attorney Freeman, how do we normally do the resets?
Courtney can
I'll
reset
prepare
it.
it, Judge.
Right.
All right.
And if Mr. Toles is asking for 30 days, it'll, just be set out then. Mhm.
Okay, well, please make sure, Attorney Toles, that, it's a very serious situation and it's a very serious addiction, as you said. So definitely for it to even have a chance to be approved, let alone considered, you're going to need to make sure that you have everything that's needed for us to make a serious consideration, one way or the other. And Ms. Welch, you do understand at between now and then that bond, you will still have no bond, but it will allow the necessary time to try to do something that could address your situation on a root level. The state or the court and your attorney, we all wish that this could be addressed, and we're all wanting that. But at the same time, we can't close our eyes to the reality of what has happened in the past, especially the recent past. And so we have to balance those two, and we'll do that in 30 days. So Ms. Simons will send out the reset order. And unless there's anything else, this case is reset approximately 30 days for the reset and to allow additional time to handle what's been discussed. Anything else, Attorney Toles?
Not at this time, Judge. No, thank you.
All right, Attorney Freeman.
None from the state, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Welch, if you need to talk to your attorney knows how to get in touch with you to discuss things further. And just know, though, it is noted that it was communicated today that you on 10 years probation and you have completed drug court. So that documentation definitely will need to be provided. All right, unless there's anything else, that will conclude this case and that will conclude this session of court. Everybody can be excused. I'll
Thank
send
you.
that order on Pierce as soon as in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, Judge.
Everybody be good, be safe. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Did Shirley?
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Thank you, Deputy Ashu.
Thank you, Judge.
We are finished. Have a good weekend and be safe.
All right, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.